And so I'd like to welcome everyone to today's Feed Your Mind event, which is sponsored by MediaCom. And Holly is not able to join us today to talk about MediaCom. I know I always have great things to say when I talk about MediaCom for Business specifically. Earlier this year, I had a situation. We were perfectly fine with our internet provider prior COVID shutting down, but we had a situation that kids were sent home from school. And now we had a massive strain on our internet usage in our house. And so I reached out to Holly and she got me set up and we got exactly what we needed. So I am a proud customer of MediaCom for Business. They've been great for us. And did you want to say on behalf of MediaCom as well?
The only thing I wanted to say, of course, we're very grateful that they've continued in this, as our presenting sponsor, just because they do a great job as a sponsor at the in-person events. They really do, and that's what they're geared for. So this, we're very grateful to them. But one thing that Holly wanted me to point out is that people that go to her directly when they're looking for internet for their business, they need to go to her directly because she can offer packages that you can't offer when you just call up MediaCom. And that's very important for our members to know. Because it is a huge cost savings. It absolutely is. So anybody that, of course, needs MediaCom, we too switched during the pandemic to MediaCom, having to work more out of the home than being inside of our offices. And I got to tell you that it's incredible. Annie, of all people, knows how bad my internet was before, prior to the switch. And it took a long time, it did, because MediaCom did such a great job in providing our school districts around here that ability for the kids to have the free internet so they can, homeschool or be home for school. So anyway, great shout out to them. She thought there was going to be a video and it didn't get to me in time. So
yeah, anyway, we'll do that. I also want to say thank you to Eric Dominguez too with Speak Up Stories for helping line up our speaker list for Feed Your Mind. And I also want to say this too, since we're recording and I can say this to a larger audience, we would love to have you reach out to us if you have an idea that you'd like to present at a Feed Your Mind. We'd love to talk with you and help you shape that and get you on this platform to do a presentation at Feed Your Mind. So today I would like to introduce Jill Anderson, who is going to talk to us about stop shooting yourself. And I'm really curious myself about exactly what this means, Jill. And I kind of wonder if maybe there should be some finger wagging that goes along with this, but I'm sure you're going to clue us in exactly what this is going to be all about.
Well, when you do
Jill,
this,
please.
Thank you for having me. And I'm going to say, Dan, the first thing that when I see somebody do this, it's my mom in my head. You point one finger, there's three pointing back at you. And she was also the one who told me to stop shooting myself a really long time ago, which was really funny because as much as I love my mom, she was the worst shooter on me of all the folks I've encountered in my life. So great lady, really funny. So yeah, thank you. I'm Jill Anderson. I am absolutely thrilled to be here. I am a speaker. I am a podcaster. You can find my podcast, same name, Stop Shooting Yourself, anywhere you like to get your pods. So I'm also a coach. I have been in the food industry for about 20 years and have recently made the shift over and just have gotten to know people throughout my entire career that, just were always saying, oh, you're such a great speaker, or, oh, I feel really connected to you. And so it just kind of was one of those things that was just kind of always in me as far as talent was concerned. And something I was always kind of aware of, but I was living my life according to the checklist. So this is where the stop shooting yourself comes in. I should go to college. Okay, great. Went to Iowa State, got a food science degree, got my, first career job, was on the husband hunt for really intense, probably 10 or 15 years. And just felt that the key to adulting was just following the grocery list. So this is kind of how I've bloomed in the last few years. I've really figured out how to get my shoulds under control and just really start living life on my own terms. So in the short list, that's kind of how we got here. I'm going to share my screen quick. I've got a few slides to help help just kind of guide me along here. And I'm going to, once I get this, there we go. Can we see that, everybody? Or am I
Not yet.
challenged here? I'm trying to get it to, we had this up a bit ago. And then,
Here it comes.
Hey, there we go. Great. So there I am. Stop shooting yourself. I started feeling buried under shoulds. I just felt like, in all the jobs that I had, my productivity just wasn't that great. I loved who I worked with. I really enjoyed the companies that I was working for. But I just found that I was procrastinating a lot. And as I started to take note of that, I just always was feeling restless. And I was finding that in my career life. I was finding that in my personal life, that I felt like literally moving apartments, trying to find the thing that fit, trying to find the people who fit. And I thought I was at the beach, like I was following the list, thought I was there. And then I realized that I was actually in the quicksand. I was following everybody else's rules, doing everything how I thought I should be doing it. I wasn't happy. I wasn't productive. And I wasn't living the life that I really wanted to live. So shoulds are sneaky. They hijack you, or in my case, they hi-jilled me. Jack and Jill, get it? I can hear you laughing behind your mutes. But they're very, very sneaky. I realized too that it was something that was very kind of quietly programmed and conditioned into me, right? This was my mom popping up and, oh, you should do this, or, oh, you don't want to be a nurse. You want to be working a 9 to 5. You want to be free in the evenings. You want to be free on your weekends. You don't want to do that. Okay. She should all over me when I was 10, 11, 12. And this isn't a blame game. This is just an example of how quietly these things can kind of pop up, right? And it goes hand in hand with change. How many of you guys are feeling that too, with businesses being turned upside down with COVID? Just the change of having your children home and having to have, become teachers. So, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. I've got so much going on in my business. My boss needs me here. My kids need me here. My spouse needs me here. So it's a constant back and forth game, and shoulds can be sneaky, but the changes we're experiencing are shocking. So how do we navigate through that without letting them just completely take over and have us feel like we are at just we are being controlled and being puppeted by things that are bigger than us. I'm also going to stop and say, please add questions in the chat, pipe up, stop me, interrupt, whatever you feel compelled to do. This is a kind of a two-way conversation or 10-way conversation at this point. So please speak up if you've got questions or just have anything story-wise to contribute. All right, so we started the year with like, ooh, 2020, like we see so clearly it's the start of a new decade. It's the start of a new year. This is exciting. What are we going to be able to accomplish in 2020? It was just this humongous oyster that we were all really excited about. I remember having that feeling of like, wow, it's going to be an amazing year. I got married in February. It was great. COVID hit. And, even people with like even 20/40 LASIK vision didn't see this crap coming. I mean, nobody saw it. Nobody saw it. If anybody did, raise your hand, because you're going to be a spectacular. Yeah, nobody saw it coming. Even at the magnitude, I mean, we saw it coming. We saw it happening across the world, but I don't think that anyone could imagine the magnitude at which it hit, right? Like when you see the NCAA tournament getting canceled and, big events like that, it was serious. And I think the shock of that really just sent everybody into a tailspin. I mean, I'm sure most of you had that feeling too of just uncertainty. We're still living in it 6 months later, figuring things out, and thinking too, again, like I said earlier, what should I be doing? We don't know because there's no precedent. So the should that we're kind of used to leaning on in a funny way is kind of biting us a little bit because we don't know what we should be doing because nobody's ever done it. Right? So I'm going to kind of bounce it back to you guys for a minute and ask, like, what have been, number one, the one thing that you were really pumped about at the beginning of the year that just got completely sidetracked, and kind of how, what change you were almost excited to see or what you feel you've learned. Any takers?
This is Trish, and I will, even though I'm part of the chamber.
Please.
I will say that, at the beginning of this year, we were so pumped. We spent 2 years restructuring this chamber, not quite two, maybe a year and a half restructuring, getting processes in place, rolling out new programming and all of these member benefits. And we went into February and had this amazing annual dinner. We had, 350 some, actually it was like 380, I can't remember how many, but it was a lot. So ready for this wonderful year of growth. And then COVID happened a week later. So it was just this shocking, I know people hate this word anymore. I actually have heard people say they hate this word, but pivoting. It was just the shocking pivoting of, holy cow, what do we do? What do we do? So, yeah.
Yeah. And that pivot turned into just like a merry-go-round of spinning enough to make you want to throw up because you
Absolutely.
don't know.
But I will also say
stop.
some amazing things came out of it, and what we have done with the chamber, and we've had now the time to do things that were on our wish list that were down further on our wish list, but they rose to the top. To be honest, these virtual type of webinars was on that list, but it wasn't
right.
And now we've learned how to navigate it. So
that's incredible. Thanks for sharing that. That's the other piece of that, if you can see it on the slide there, is that, we didn't see this coming, but I think something shoulding has taught me, or the process of getting out of that, is really how to shift the focus, right? How to put on a different pair of glasses and look at what's happening and saying, what can I learn? Maybe something I wasn't expecting is almost better in a weird way, right? Like I can be extremely uncomfortable with this, but this could be the growth push that I need. So anybody else have some insights into, and it can be personal, business, whichever whichever's hitting at you.
I know for me personally that I had always been super focused on meeting one-on-one with people I was going to work with and getting to know them. And that the virtual portion of this has pushed me to completely refigure how I do things. And I honestly have no intention on going back to a significant number of in-person meetings because they're so much more efficient.
Yes.
And like for me, my job, I do social media. So needing to show analytics to people, needing to show their content calendars, we can screen share and I can edit things while we're having a conversation about it.
Right.
And it makes things way more efficient. And I have no idea why it took me this long to figure it out. So I'm happy that I know that. I miss some of the like aspects of what I did before.
Sure.
But yeah, like I had a whole plan that I was like, I'm going to do these things to make myself better in what I do in my business and potentially grow. And then I kind of like grew on accident because people were like, oh, well, we're going to need more of this now because we don't have anything else.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a really interesting insight.
I also have completely learned how to like make myself focus and plan things out better because I was working like 12-hour days the first 2 weeks that everything was shut down.
Yeah.
That is not healthy.
No, but something I love about what you said is that I think kind of the beauty of shutdown, lockdown is that it levels the playing field from top to bottom, right? That's not a change that you feel like you're kind of going against the tide of wanting to shift how you meet people. As a coach, we use Zoom all the time, and we were taught, not everyone we interact with is local. So of course that's a piece of it, but I would do this meeting with people across town because it saves me travel time. It saves me spending money on coffee. And there's no substitute for a personal interaction. You can just be more mindful and more, just a bit more intentional with who and when you choose to do those with. So it's fun because it's great because it got everybody kind of forced into the same pool, right? And we're all kind of learning that at the same time. Like if you didn't know Zoom before, we're all learning it. So guess what? Hop in the boat. We're all in here together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. Any others?
This is Nicole. I thought the biggest challenge was having my kids home from school.
Yeah.
Like that was not something that as dual working parents that we had ever anticipated that we would have to face. So that was, I was just stressed, like all of, the shoulding, like, no, how are the kids going to get their education? They're going to fall behind. How am I going to get my work done? Like all of these shoulds that you talk about so rings true. And I think about like 2 weeks into it, I finally was like, you know what? Everybody's in the same boat. Like, you just got to let it go. Just let it go. If the only thing they, learn is how to play outside in nature or, whatever that is, so be it. And same thing with work, just kind of realizing, okay, we're all in this together. And that helped. But I think there was definitely the first couple of weeks, this huge pressure on, how does this even make sense for a working parent?
Right. And the beauty of it is, in the beauty of the chaos, is that, again, we're learning there is no precedent. So it really stripped, we're used to shitting ourselves a lot. We're used to that coming from other places too, the pressure of what to do, how to do it. But that kind of went away in a weird way in certain circumstances, right? Like even the experts didn't know what to do. I mean, we're all trying to, find, that beacon of expert knowledge and someone to lead us, but it's a beautiful experiment and just having to learn to let go and figure it out.
Totally.
Which is a very scary place to be for a lot of people. Yeah. Which kind of leads me to the change box here. And change is more than just coins, which, the US has a shortage of those right now. So lots of human change, lots of money, not as much money change. So we talked about some of these changes. And I want to do a little, if you all flip your cameras on for a second, we can have a little fun here. So when I say change, I'd like to know if any of you, give me a thumbs up if it's something that you like. Who likes change? Anybody? I'm kind of like this. I'm kind of like a neutral. It depends on the change, right? So if someone tells you, I think you should change your hair, what's your first reaction to that?
I haven't changed my hair since I was like 10.
But the fact that someone says, Trish, I think you should change your style.
Yeah,
Does that make you go,
how rude? I think
right?
it's
Who do you
rude.
think you are?
If Trisha Rivas says it.
right. When she says it to me, I might listen, but it's her fault that I haven't changed my hair.
Right. But it's that reaction of like, I think a lot of us go like, ooh, whereas if I say, I want to change my style. Oh, I really want to do this look on you, Trish. That has a whole different type of connotation, right? Like I might be going like, hey, all right, cool. Like you see something that I don't see, or it has a whole different positive spin on it. There's a gal by the name of Susan Heitler. She's a PhD. She went to Harvard. She went to NYU. She's a super smart therapist. And she talks about just the word should and how when you think about it, that feeling of just saying, hey, I think you should change your hair, it makes like you feel your body just kind of go, ooh, it makes you think of feeling guilty. Like it makes me not want to do it. If you've got even a shred of rebellion in your spirit, it just like fires that up a little bit sometimes. And it makes, I started feeling the links between mom saying, oh, I think you should do this, or I think you should do that. And it made me think, okay, well, if I don't do it, then, oh my gosh, I'm going to disappoint her. Like the pressure is huge when you have people coming at you with this, or then as that shifts from society or your peers or your colleagues to yourself, then you start feeling, you know, like I'm disappointing myself. I can't do anything right. Like there's just so much pressure and negative energy really that comes from it. And she had this really great example, and I'm going to read it so it's articulate and front to back. And she says, sure, you should take care of your children, right? That's your responsibility. You should pay your bills on time. That's being a good citizen. But most of the time when we use that word, it's really disempowering, and it ends up undermining your own worth and your own purpose. So her example is this gal, we're going to call her Judy. She had a relapse of an autoimmune disease, and she noticed that she was shooting on her husband all the time. Oh, I've been sick all week. He should be helping me with the house. He should be cleaning things up. Like I physically can't do it. You know, and then she starts feeling angry and resentful because she's like, dude, help me out, man. Like, do I really need to tell you? That was kind of her attitude. And when she talked to her husband and used the word should, I really think you should be helping me with this more. I mean, how often does your spouse tell you that? Dan, you really should be mowing the yard twice a week instead of just once a week. How do you feel when I say that to you? You're like, really? You know, it makes you feel bad. Like I'm not doing good enough. I'm not, like, it's not enough. It's not, you know, it comes from a negative type of standpoint, right? So when you think, you know, that's how you're reacting to these changes or these people wanting to change your schedule, change this, change that, you start thinking, you know, when you come at it from the standpoint of a should, it's almost like that negativity just really kind of takes over, and it's very quiet. It's very sneaky. It's so programmed into us that a lot of times we don't even know or aren't even like acutely aware that that's what we're feeling. So when Judy changed her words up, she changed her language. She said, hey, if you could help me out a little bit, I would really appreciate that. I would love that. I know if I said that to my husband, he'd be much more receptive to whatever it was that I was asking him to do instead. And me the same. So there's a lot of power in language, a lot of power in language. That's something that's going to come into play in an activity that I'm going to bring up here in a bit. But none of this happens unless we have awareness around the whole idea of should, right? It was, you can't begin to have this desired change without having some awareness of what your habits are, of kind of where these things begin, how they pop up, where they come from. So this is the should list. I talked about that a little bit earlier for me. My should list was get married, get a job, buy a house, have the kids, have the car, have the, you know, kind of that typical, you know, this is how you adult type of list. And then I started paying attention to when I used that word throughout my day. And I challenge all of you guys to do that. It can be today, but take a couple of days and make notes of every time you say the word should, anytime someone says it to you. I've even noticed it in marketing communications, in, you know, just any kind of communication that I'm absorbing. It's really started to hit me upside the head as to how often we use that word. So I encourage you, put those things on a list and think about how those things can be useful to us, because not all shoulds are bad. There are good shoulds. Again, taking care of your kids, paying your bills, thinking like, but reframe your language. How many of you had the I should work out today in your head?
Yes.
I've been shitting on that one for like probably my whole adult life. And I can tell you, it never happens every day. It maybe happens a couple times a year, but it's on my head every single day. But if I reframe my language and say, I really want to work out today, or taking time to work out will really give me some energy. It'll make, you know, it'll light my body up. It'll, you know, clarify my head a little bit. It'll give me that energy, right? It's that reframing of the language. So not all shoulds are bad, but it's how we approach them. So some of the shoulds that I brought on from my childhood, Jill, you should go to college. Hey, I'm glad. I take that one. I'm going to keep that one because it works for me. It's something that has proved to be very advantageous in my, not only my personal life, but my career life too. So definitely not a bad one. But now I'm thinking, you shouldn't, I'm seeing some chats pop up. So yes.
Oh, keep rolling. We're good.
Okay, good. All right. Dan's going to wave me down if there's something that pops up. But for me, it was, I got divorced about 18 months after I got married the first time. I was 30 when I got married. I married somebody who on paper made all the sense. All the sense. We could go down, literally went down the checklist of like, boom, 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 jackpot, hit it, great. So we got married. And about 18 months in, I was like, I don't know. I was just having all these weird, that's all I could explain it, just weird feelings inside. We had, we'd experienced a couple of miscarriages. And that was another thing where I was expecting this, like, okay, we should have kids. And I'm expecting that, I'm going to feel this amazing maternal connection, right? Like that's what everyone says you should feel when you have that experience of expecting. And I didn't have that. And there's just a lot of stuff that just felt really off. It just felt very, very off. And so, growing up in a Catholic family, very conservative, perfectionistic, doing everything right, playing by the rules, getting divorced after 18 months wasn't really high on the yay list, right? Like I didn't have a whole lot of, I had a lot of support, but it was a very freaky experience for me. It was the moment where I had to sit down, get real with myself and really think and connect to why I was feeling this way and where my life was going to go from here. Because getting divorced was not something you should do, at least in the language of the family I grew up in and the people I surrounded myself with. But my support system, and only because I started to pay attention to myself and get a little bit empowered, a lot empowered, instead of cowering behind the idea of just being afraid of what people would think or what, I was told was right or wrong. I just started to create that awareness in my life of, why am I doing this? And I knew that happiness meant more. And I was starting to get some traction in my own mind and in my own, just in my own spirit of what that really meant. And I didn't know that then. I think obviously, we mature as we age, hopefully most of us. And that was just part of my process. But I learned that once I started really paying attention to these expectations on a larger level, I was able to start thinking like a toddler and ask why to everything. And the more you ask, the deeper you get. Why was I doing this? Well, because I thought I was supposed to. Really? That's all you got? That's about all I had for a long time. For a long, long time. And once I started to kind of turn the tides and create that awareness, that's when the change really began. And that was the change that I wanted. These were not the should change. This was the stuff that I was choosing. And make no mistake, even though it was good change, it was change that I was choosing. It was still very, very difficult. Good change is still change, and any change is a challenge. So I would have to say that was probably one of the largest learnings that I've had, is just to really pay attention. The awareness is where it all begins, and that's where you're going to learn the most. So I'm going to flip it back to you guys again and just say, hey, do you remember a should that you had even today? Like how many shoulds besides the workout? What other shoulds have we heard in our minds or from our kids or from our spouses or our bosses? What's been should on us yet already today? Anybody?
There's the whole to-do list today.
Yeah. How does that make you feel?
Very anxious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel that that's a list that you can go through and kind of you know, just kind of have a moment with each of those tasks? And is this something that's worth?
It's running a few pages.
Sorry, a book. Go through your book, Dad. Yeah. To-do lists, they're overwhelming and they feel like they're choking you. Right?
You know, we have, this is Trish again. We have an
Yeah.
attendee on, Will. Will, where are you? Are you logged in? I just, you know, knowing Will and this nonprofit that he started, I can tell you that I think he has a lot of shoulds that are placed on his shoulders by community members that feel he should be doing it one way and not another. And
That's
so
a big
anyway,
one.
Will, if you feel comfortable talking about that a little bit, it'd probably be great.
Can y'all hear me?
Hey, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Well,
Dump your shoulds on us.
Huh?
Dump your shoulds on us.
Hey, there's a lot of should. I should have marched. I should have, these were people saying I should have done. I should have talked more about legislations and laws and been standing with, if we're going to talk real, we're going to talk real. I should have been standing more with the Black Lives Matter movement. And do I believe in Black Lives Matter? Yes, I do. But I believe that all lives is the answer and your life matters. And that's what I'm fighting for.
Sure.
I'm fighting for true togetherness. Togetherness doesn't mean just one race. It doesn't mean just one party. And I believe that we all come together in a unique, powerful way that every race will prosper. You know what I'm saying? That all of us will be able to talk and understand each other without being afraid, without being concerned about what's this person is going to say, what this person is going to do. We're going to understand each other. Even if we disagree with each other, we still have to progress. Yeah. You know, like a lot of people will stop progressing because they disagree with someone.
Right.
But there's a whole bunch of other things that we agree with. But because of that one thing that we disagree, we stop progress. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm not that one. I can disagree with somebody, but the end game is the same, is to help our community, to help our families, to help our state, to help anybody we got to help. I'm going to say if the end game is the same thing, we're going to do it. We're going to make it happen.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, Will. And I was going to say, you know, the reason I called you out, I'm sorry for that, is that many people don't understand his organization. He's a member of our chamber and he's actually supported by Prairie Meadows, and we won't get into all of that, but he faces a lot of shoulds because, you know, people think that he should be doing it a different way. And just as a side note, Eric, I want to make sure that you and Will connect as well at some point. But yeah, out of all of us, you know, the shoulds in our professional life and what we should be doing one way and doing another is just, it's overwhelming at times. I should be doing in-person events, you know, instead of Zooms. And it gets overwhelming.
It is. And it's a practice that's going to be never ending. I mean, these things are never going to go away, but the key to being able to manage it is to really be able to have kind of that practice within, so that, Will, when you're dealing with either sponsors, partners, leadership, a lot of voices coming at you with, this is what I think you should do, that you are able to really connect with that compass within to know where you stand, how you want to handle it, and that your vision for getting to the end point is really the goal, and how you get there as the leader is, you know, of course you like to take the collective into account, but the direction is really kind of yours to inspire and to take along. So it's very, very challenging, but I think being able to cancel out some of that noise to really
that's the hard part
out within yourself. It's the hardest part.
That's the hard part, because the thing is that noise is actually your own people, your own culture.
Yes.
You
the
know,
ones you're asking to help and to be with you. So
and my whole culture don't realize that what I'm doing is actually going to help them tremendously.
Right.
You know, they just see, the thing is, a lot of people in our community don't understand how it works to get to this level, to do stuff great, to really to not just be mediocre when it comes down to change.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I am about change when it comes down to certain things. Do I want to change my mustache? No.
Yeah.
But do I want to change other things when it comes down to education? You know, when it comes down to the mindset,
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to change certain things like that, because I think we are far left on a lot of things out here in our community,
Yeah.
in our state, actually. And so, yes, I have, when it comes down to what people want me to do or what I should do, I I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable doing what others want me to do when I don't feel that it's the right way to do. And I will
Right.
take the hits.
Yeah.
I would get beat up if it, like, people call me, I'm gonna say this right now. People call me, they say, "Well, you a pawn because you're not doing it this way, you're not doing it that way. You should be doing it this way." So they call me a pawn, right? And you know what I tell them? I said, "Okay, I am a pawn right now, but I know how to play chess." Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so when we play chess, that pawn, I got so many different pieces that's helping me get to the top. And once I get to the top, guess what happens? I can change that piece to any piece I want to change to. I don't want to be the king, because the king is the most powerful and the most weakest piece on the board. I want to be the queen, so I can move around anywhere I want to go and help out as many people as I can.
Yep.
So call me a pawn right now if you want to, but that piece will change.
Yes. Mic drop. Dang.
Wait a minute, I got a pen.
Yeah. When you talked about that, it made me think, starting a business that was a total 180 from what I'd done my entire life. It's really easy to sit in the seats and point and tell people what you think they should be doing. It's very easy to be in that seat.
Mm-hmm.
And people talk a lot about change. We talk a lot about it, but doing it's a completely different ballgame. Being up on the stage, being willing to put the bullseye on your back and to be up there spreading your message, doing the work that you really want to do in your communities or in your businesses, that's the hard part. It's easy to sit in the theater or in your backyard in your lawn chair and just tell everybody what you think needs to happen. Getting up and doing it's a totally different game.
And that is so beautiful that you just said that, because there's a lot of people that have come to me and give me great ideas and say, "Will, this is what the economy needs. This is what the community needs." I mean, they give me great ideas. And you know what I asked them? I said, "So how are you going to do it?
Let's do it." Ooh.
How you going to do it?" So what they do
Yeah.
is they give me great suggestions, and they talk so well about these things, and it makes sense. But then what they do is, after they finish telling me that, they go home and sit down and watch TV.
Mm-hmm. And that's another level of awareness too, is you create that awareness within yourself of, again, how we want to handle things on the inside, but then you're also creating another level of awareness with the people around you and knowing what the limitations and kind of where those expectations stop, or
Right.
kind of where that transfer happens, right? So
Mm-hmm.
so it's a learning curve on so many levels, but I think the awareness piece is so critical, and it'll help start to kind of penetrate your consciousness as to, how you want to show up, how you want to operate. And then, being able to set your boundaries and asking those people who are giving you ideas to step in and help. And if they're not, then your opinion can kind of, go back to the recliner with you, buddy. Because
It's
we
amazing.
don't got time. We don't have time for that.
When it's actually time to do the work, because the work is hard.
That's right.
It is not a day's work. It can be years and years and years and years and years. It can be
Right.
forever until you die. You know what I mean? But you have to be committed to do that work. I stepped out, even though I knew I was going to get hit from my own community, by working with the police,
Mm-hmm.
by being friends with our governor. You know what I mean? Like that, they really tore me up because of that. Like, how can you be friends with with a Republican, and you're a Democrat? I said, because I didn't look at her as being a Republican. I looked at her as being a woman, first of all, but she's actually our governor who can help me make moves to help my community.
Mm-hmm.
So why
but there's
would
purpose? there's purpose behind your action, and
Yes.
and you're doing those things because you want to,
Yes.
which kind of pulls back to why we're talking about this to begin with, right? Because that's your purpose, that is your passion. All of you who are business owners, who are advocates, you're doing these things out of desire because it's what your gifts are, it's what your passion is, it's where you're drawn to spend your energy. And so I'm gonna
just like Trish. I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead.
Because I want to get Trish mad love. Let me tell you something. Trish has helped me out tremendously with connections, with meeting with people through the Fuse chamber. You know what I mean? And it's like, I've never been in no chamber before. I mean, this life is foreign. It used to be foreign to me. It ain't foreign no more because I've been in it for a while now. I remember when I first got into it, I was like, where am I? You know what I mean? It was so many different people that was around me. And I thought they was looking at me like I was, you know what I'm saying? I don't know, an alien or something at first. But I realized they wasn't. They was looking at me like they wanted to know who I was, you know. And when it came down to Trish, like putting me in situations to really to connect, and those are the things that I should do. I should be there when Trish said, be there, so I can connect, so I can help more when it comes, so I can build more relationships when it comes down to helping my community. There's one thing that I've learned: building relationships is beautiful.
Yeah.
You can do so much. I tell people all the time, I have to look just as beautiful as the drug dealer. I have to look just as beautiful as the gangbanger. So when it's time for them, these kids to choose, they choose me instead of choosing them. And the only way that can happen is for me having more resources, more connections.
And it started as a should, but it's turning into a want, right? It's something that, you know, hey, I should give back, spend some more time, really invest some time and energy in this. And it's coming back to you now as a want and what it's provided for you, right?
Yep.
That's incredible. So we're going to flip to my second to last one here. One of my favorite questions is to ask, what would your life be like if all of your decisions were only made from the trust of your inner compass and every single person in your life cheered you on? If nobody was judging you, if nobody was throwing challenges at you, trying to shoot holes in your ideas, how would that feel? What would that look like?
Amazing.
Right?
That's fictional.
Right. It'll be
to a
too
point.
much.
Right. Because we're not living in la la land here, right?
Right.
But what I think the purpose of that does is, for me, I didn't know how to dream. I didn't know what that looked like because I was so stuck to my checklist that I felt very comfortable there. And I knew what my expectations were. I knew what I needed to do. I knew how to do it. I knew when to do it. So there was so much comfort in that I didn't even know how to, you know, expand my thinking and my desire and my dreaming. I didn't even know how to do that because I was so tied to what my trusted advisory board was telling me to do all the time, right? So I think if nothing else, it helps you to just connect to yourself and to what you really want to get out of it. And you can have that feeling of connecting with that intuition, that gut feeling in you to know just what level of that you're on. You know, when you think about, you know, starting a business, something that's very scary, requires a lot of risk, you know, and if everybody cheered you on, how intense is that excitement? What does that really feel like? It's kind of a good checkpoint for, you know, for kind of gauging the excitement and the truth of who you are and what you want to accomplish. And Kim Cattrall, who, you know, a very wise philosopher from Sex and the City, you know, wise philosopher for those of us who know this. Attribution aside, I 100% agree with this. She says, I try to get beyond expectations and just listen. I believe all the answers are ultimately within us. And I couldn't agree more with that. It's instead of asking everyone else, start with yourself. Start and end with yourself. What do I want to get out of this? What do I want to achieve? What can I do to help? What can I learn? All of those things, all of those questions, start with yourself and end there too. Because you'll find all the answers that you need. That's what I've got, folks.
That was great.
Questions, comments, stories.
Jill, this is Nicole. I just wanted to say that it really hit the point home for me that even when we have the ability of quieting those around us and kind of, ignoring those commentary from the crowd, right?
Mm-hmm.
It forces us then to deal with our own inner talk as well.
Yes.
Because even if we can quiet the crowd, we also internally a lot are like, but what if they, and it's this whole process of, I just think you hit the nail on the head. It's this whole process of like, we've got to quiet that too, so that we can get deep down to what is it that we really want and how do we then go forward and lead with that. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. And I'd say especially, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a small business owner and you're building and you're constantly doing, a little check-in here and there, like, am I doing this right? How am I doing? There's a lot of external, I guess at every level of your business, because once you start growing, you've got associates and people to help you that are telling you just as much, right? So, that I think that clarity and that ability to really check in and to establish that practice is really how to strengthen that muscle of your direction, right? And trusting yourself to make the decisions that need to be made, because it's very easy to let your brain take charge and to let logic win, and it wins sometimes, but a lot of times you're doing what makes sense on paper and what makes sense cerebrally just isn't lining up with what you're feeling inside. And so there's a lot, I'm digging into a lot of research and stuff on that too, of just figuring out how to reconcile that, because we're raised, and I think we're conditioned that numbers, all the data, all the mind, all that stuff, and there is a lot of value in that, but there's also this other side that we can't quantify, that's very difficult to trust because we can't quantify it. So I think, just to really establish that connection, to yourself and to that, to that feeling, because that it applies to a lot of things, and it's hard to talk about and hard to rely on and hard to trust, because it's not a hard fast fact a lot of times, but that's kind of where I'm trying to take this a little bit too. Any others? Is there anything in the chat that I've missed?
I put in the chat that I'm the opposite of Danny. I have to have a to-do list or my brain goes like 42,000 places. So for me, it calms my anxiety to literally write down everything I need to do in a day, so that I can focus on what the priorities are. Sure. And I'm really good at not shoulding myself. Everybody else shoulds me.
Yeah.
So
but you must be good at blocking that, or to like setting the boundary of knowing what to let in and what not to, right?
Yeah. Well, I own a business and I have for a couple of years, but I have a dad who is like in dad mode 24 hours a day. And he's like this 70-something Italian man. So there's a whole lot of stuff going on that, like, the first time I made my hair pink, I got all these, well, maybe your clients won't want to hire you if you have pink hair. And I said, if they hire me for my pink hair, I don't want them to be my client anyways.
I put a tattoo on my arm when I was 39, and I freaked out about it for months, because I was like, what's my mom going to say? Oh my God. Yeah, I get it.
So when I get shoulded by my family, I just kind of remember like that this is my path, not theirs.
Yes.
Which my dad, even when I started my business, said, I'm going to say things to you as your father, but you should ignore them in a lot of circumstances.
He's got some self-awareness. That's great.
Yeah. Well, he's like, you're braver than me. I wanted to do this when I was your age, but I had 2 kids and I didn't.
Right.
So,
right. And a lot of that projection is, for him, it was wanting things that he didn't have. And a lot of that as parents, it's, you just want the best for your kids. You want them to be safe. You want them to be secure. I know that's where my mom's shoulding came from, was like, hey, I just want you to have a better life and have better things. But it all comes down to, this is my path. This is my human experience. And,
I
Trust
do
that-
100% though, like have.
Yeah,
can't
I'm
see
with
it.
you. I'm a lister too. It's got to come out of here. Otherwise it just
Yeah.
hangs out and
Lost,
stays.
so I write it down and I color code things because then I know how I need to time chunk my day so I
Yes.
get through everything so I can do what I want to and fills up my bucket instead of sitting and scheduling Facebook
Right.
posts all day.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's excellent.
I try.
Anyone else? Eric, we haven't heard from you.
Well, there's a lot that resonated here as just the shoulds, especially this year as I really launched my speaking business, and all of the speaking things that I had lined up that got canceled by dominoes, and the shooting of my own mind of what I should be accomplishing up to this point. And your material has always helped me release that and change the language of, especially when I'm doing it to myself, if what are the expectations that I have and what's going to set me up for success. And I like the good shoulds. Like there are some things that I do get to lean into, and I do get to push myself out of my comfort zone in that regard. But there's also a balance of, I can put that aside for today.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times I think this is where the sneaky part comes back in, is that we think that so-and-so has these expectations of us, and it's really us sabotaging ourselves or making stuff up that really doesn't exist. I mean, I was telling Eric, I was like, I was shooting myself all morning. Like, I should be nervous about this, but I'm really not. Like, I'm really excited, but I feel like I should be nervous because most people hate public speaking, but I think it's really fun. It's just this dialogue of crazy because it's just, but that's the push and pull of what I feel I've been conditioned to, or the things that I absorb from a lot of people. And it's finding that strength and knowing like, no, this is like, I'm really excited about this, and dang it, I can be. And I don't have to be nervous just because someone else might be. So,
That's right.
yeah.
Well, Jill, you had mentioned to me you had a workbook or something that you wanted
Yes.
to share with
Yes.
people.
Thank you. So I do have, if it's something that you're interested in working through, it just kind of is a little guide of, your should list, how to kind of go through that. It gives you a little space to kind of jot some stuff out on paper in a bit of an organized fashion. You can email me if you'd like a copy of that. My email is jill@heyjill.com. Very easy. My website is also heyjill.com. There's some great stuff there too. You can sign up, and I don't send crap email because I think that stinks. But the first thing that you'll get is a link to my free guide of, it's 5 signs expectations are running your life and what to do about it. So kind of a fun little read if that's something that you want to dive into a little more. Go to the website. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram, Jill Hey Jill. Any combo of Jill and Hey, you'll be able to find me somehow, I think. Yeah, and I'd love to hear from you. If there's any ideas you have or anything you want to drop and just chat about, I would be happy to do that.
Wonderful. Anyone who's watching this recording later on YouTube, same thing, Jill. I'm sure you're saying, go ahead and email me. Go ahead and
Hit
check
me
out my
up.
website. So
Absolutely. Happy
Just
to
wanna-
start a conversation.
yeah. Want to extend that offer to everyone who'll be watching this recording later as well. Well, Jill, thank you so much for sharing today. This has been a wonderful conversation that we've had. I'd like to see in chat, everyone, what Jill's presentation today, what did you take away from it? How about a 1 through 5? 1 through 5 in the chat today. Give her a little of props today for what she's been doing for us. So we'd like again to thank Mediacom for sponsoring our Feed Your Mind series this year. And thank you to Eric for helping line up speakers. And I'm just going to throw this out again. If you have anything that you are doing in the community, which means business owners, nonprofits, everyone who's a member of the chamber, I'm sure there's a topic that you would love to talk about and we would love to hear about on Feed Your Mind. So reach out either to Eric or to myself, even to, and we'd love to get you on the program to hear what you have to share. Do check out the Fuse Des Moines event and see what the upcomings are. We've got Caffeinate Conversate next Tuesday, as well as Feed Your Mind session next Tuesday. So check out the calendar coming up for the rest of the month. So with that, thank you for participating today. It's been
Thanks
wonderful.
for having
Have
me,
a
and
great
thanks
day.
everybody for contributing. It was
And
really
thanks.
fun.
Look at all those fives.
Yes.
Ah,
Okay, I'm
Thank
gonna
you,
give you a
everybody.
5
Thank
right
you.
now. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5.
thank you. Thank
Oh,
you.
Will.
Appreciate it,
Will, give
everybody.
me a call.
All right, I will.
All right. Bye, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye. You
Thanks.
too.